Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV. Listen, child, we finna get into episode 3 of Reasonable Doubt, episode called Run This Town. We definitely about to run this episode right after this.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies, television series, and do celebrity legal news. Also, join me for my pop culture chats. If you'd like to support the channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. My Venmo and Cash App is below. Thank you so much, and let's get started.
Y'all make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure y'all hit that like button and make sure that you subscribe. Y'all, let's get into episode 3, child. May not have as many visual aids, but yes, let's get into this episode. So Ozzy has effed around and found out he is now considered the main suspect for the uh murder of Miss Wendy Collins. All right. And it worked well last time, so I'm going to stick to this format of talking about Jax's professional life and then talking about her personal life, okay? Whew. So let's get into her personal life real quick because that doesn't take too much, and I have just a couple of things I want to say about that. So at the end of the last episode, Jack's father shows up, and you can tell that there's like tension between him and Lewis for some reason. We find out that his name is Eddie. Okay, now in between what's going on in her professional life, Jax's daughter's Naima is out walking with her friends, and they snooker her, convince her to go in and they try to steal a purse. And the daughter, they run, but the daughter is caught because again, they're white, she's black. They got she got caught. She got arrested. Now, she was arrested, however, because the people at the station knows Jax, she has a good rapport with everybody at the station. Uh she doesn't have a record, so to speak. They just kind of let her off with like a warning. But baby, they dig into her tale. And that's the social commentary of it all about, there is a bias for young children, young black children. Young white children are given a pass every now and then, but young black children go straight through the system. Okay, so there was just a little commentary about that, and they kind of talked to her about that. So that she gets suspended from school because she skipped school to do all of this. So she's suspended from school for 3 days. So she's having to do an community service work at her father's job. So he gets her up early that morning, like, nah, you're not gonna sleep in. You're gonna get up. We got to go to work. You got to go to work. You're gonna have to work here at that office. So that's what she does. And at first she doesn't want to do it, but she ends up doing it and she ends up having a good time. She ends up sitting down talking with her father, and one of the things that she was talking about her father was because he asked her, these are new sets of friends. Why are you hanging with these new sets of friends? What happened to Holly? Now, let me tell you who Holly is. Holly is the daughter of Tony. You remember Tony is the one that he had the affair with, and she got pregnant, and then they lost the baby. Well, Naima was friends with Holly forever, and then their friendship kind of waned. And here's one of the things that she mentioned. Naima was talking about Holly's little brother that passed away. And Holly had made some mention about who the baby's father was. I can't remember if she said it was Lewis or not, but she made mention of it, that the baby's who that uh in other words, Naima thought that her friend was lying about her father being the baby's dad. And Lewis is like sitting there stunned. He doesn't know what to do. He talks with Jax, and Jax tells him, "Hey, we've got to sit down and talk to him. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we got to sit down and talk to him. And he was like, well, should we go ahead and sit down and talk with Naima? And she was like, it'd be best if we tell them both. And Spencer is supposed to be coming back from boarding school the next week. So they're going to tell him, but how they're going to tell him is something is they hadn't figured that out yet. And I'll be glad to know how they figure that out. So again, we're still sticking with the personal life. Again, I told you that Jack's father has shown up. So Jax, her mother, and Lewis were supposed to have a dinner together. They're at this dinner, but Jack's mom ambushes the dinner with Eddie because Eddie wasn't supposed to show up. Now he done showed up at the house and he'd have been turned away. Now he shows up at the dinner. And her mom is like, after after some thought and thinking, I thought it would be best for you to get with your father. Now, let me tell you something about Mama Lou. Now, during the first season, when Jax was open to want to see from her father, she got in between that. She's like, no, you don't need to see your father. He's not going to do anything but cause confusion. Now, I will tell you about Jax's mom. Jax's mom she is of that generation. I'd rather have a piece of man than no man at all. And so as long as she has a man in her life, she's fine. And anybody else can kick rocks. Because you remember the first season, she didn't want Eddie to come in and to mess up her relationship with Paul or Dave or whatever the name of that man was. She didn't want him to mess that up. Second season, I think she was moving into another relationship. And I don't think that Eddie's name was called, but again, she gives that situation that, and she tries to put on airs. It's like she wants the world to believe that she has this because her daughter is a high powered attorney. She wants the world to believe that, I just have this really great family. We don't have anything going on. Jax just has, she has a wonderful husband, not even talking about the fact that Jax cheated on her husband the first season and then he cheated on Jax the second season. Not that that's something for fodder for people to know outside of the family, but she paints this picture of them, this false but positive picture of her family. And she's really Mama Lou is really wanting Jax to connect to her father. Jax is pretty much not ready. She has a conversation with Lewis. Let me see if this was this episode. She has a conversation with Lewis, and I believe they had the conversation about when she's ready, when Jax is ready, then there will no. He's talking to her that he doesn't trust some of the things that her father is doing. She has the same thing. And so he's like, I'm going to use your judgment. I'm not going to get in and tell you can see your father, you can't see your father. I'm going to go with your particular judgment and see what happens in regards to that. So that's pretty much where we at on the personal side of Jax. All right. Let's get into the professional side. And so this is going to be talking about the case. Okay. Now, remember I told you last episode he was arrested and the judge set first it was no bail. And then, they got it down to where he could pay the considerable amount of bail, right? So Jax is updating the partners on the case. And then she's talking about all the ways that Ozzy is effing all of this up. First of all, he's out, because again, I don't know why he's acting like this is not very, very serious. He knows it's serious, but he's acting like it's not serious. He's out in public. He done went to Whole Foods or Erewhon to get him some food, and the paparazzi are hounding him. And then when he gets in the car, the paparazzi is right there, and then he pushes the paparazzi. Well, the reporter files a charge. The prosecution is asking for his bail to be revoked. The judge gives him another chance. So then they say, well, because it was some little quirky thing about, well, he didn't, he was out and about, and he was out and about, and those people got into his face, and everything was going on, and so the judge was like, well, maybe he doesn't need to be out and about. maybe he needs to be on house arrest. So they give him an ankle monitor, they put him on house arrest, and what does he do? He goes to the community center, which is in his gated community, and he goes and sits by the pool or he does something. He gets called back again for a bail violation. The judge is saying, no, house arrest means house arrest. And she was like, well, he didn't understand that he couldn't go out and walk around in his community. He thought it was a gated community. He thought as long as he was in the gated community, he was fine. The judge says, no. Then this Negro starts putting thirst traps. Thirst traps. Girl, he's all with his little chest, got his D'Angelo pose and everything like that. He's teen do too much right now. And it's almost like he's begging for attention. There's something that he wants, but he's just not it's not clicking. And Jax takes notice of this. She really takes notice of this, but she tells the partners what's going on. And she's at this point, she says, you know what? Ozzy needs somebody to watch over him. So she knows that he doesn't do anything where the judge is going to revoke his bail. And so she enlists Daniel to go over there and to sit and babysit Ozzy and make sure that he's not posting, making sure that he's not going anywhere. And baby, it don't go good because that crazy fool done jumped out in his drawers, dancing and singing thong, 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 thong by Cisco. Whoo, child. I ain't never seen nothing like this. And there was a phrase that while Jax was updating the partners, uh everything seemed really tense at that thing because there's this white lady that first she was sitting on the left side of Jax. If I'm facing, how I'm facing, so she was sitting on the left side of Jax. And then all of a sudden, she's moved over to where she's sitting next to the partners. And baby, her mouth is slick. She's all of a sudden slick because the partners are just questioning Jax and keeps questioning Jax. And Jax is feeling a little paranoid about the whole situation because she's not understanding why are they questioning her like that. And then the other people in the firms are throwing little smart remarks and little digs and stuff like that. So she's getting kind of paranoid about that. We find out, I asked y'all before, and we're going to go over these questions at the end of this episode. Why is Bill so creepy? But baby, Bill is stalking his estranged wife. He is calling her. He's pulling up in the car. He's calling her and he's looking at her, and she's like putting his calls to voicemail. He's getting pissed off and he leaves. Then he comes over with flowers and all kinds of stuff. So apparently, and maybe this is why he wants to make partner so bad, because he thinks that if he makes partner, his wife is going to take him back. Huh. Huh. Hmm. Because he's acting real creepy, but again, he has this rage. It's like this silent rage that it just comes up. It comes like right up to his throat, and then he's just enough because he's very careful with his words. But maybe that's why he's so creepy. He's acting real creepy and being a spy for Jack, for the partners in regards to Jax. He's trying to do anything and everything he needs to do to make partner, because I believe, this is me, I believe he thinks that's going to make his wife come back to him. Till you come back to me, that's all. Where are we? So in the midst of all of this and Daniel watching Ozzy, he seems to be catching feelings for Ozzy's sister. And while he is over there, Ozzy overdoses. Here his sister Kristen comes to the rescue, baby. She got Narcan or something back in the back, and she's able to give it to him. And then I guess she calls her family and stuff like that about it, because they don't call the ambulance or anything like that. they called, I guess, the concierge doctor that makes the house calls. And baby, why he seemed suspect? He seemed real suspect. Because he's like, oh, well, he just needs some rest. Why is he not? I guess I figure if he overdosed on one drug and then you took another drug to keep him from uh being pruned from the timeline, doesn't like his heart rate and all this other stuff need to be checked? I don't know. Y'all put that down in the comments because I was real concerned. I was like, he's not gonna push for at least a nurse to come stay with him for the night. Sure. So Daniel questions the sister, and he questions the sister about the drugs, and she says he has been using since he's been clean. He was clean all of the time since he was with Wendy. She said, however, when he was using before, she would make sure that, he was getting drugs, but she would make sure that he was getting drugs now. And she knew because of fentanyl was so prevalent in well, fentanyl is so prevalent now, and that she didn't want him to get caught up with fentanyl and all that other stuff. So she was buying the drugs for him since he's been on this lockup. She was buying the drugs for him because she knew of a respected her. She knew of a trusted dealer that she could buy those drugs from, and that's why she had the Narcan just in case something like that. Because he had been in rehab before, for drug use, but she said he'd been clean. Daniel asked her, did she give him drugs the night of the thing? She says no. She didn't give him any drugs then. And so now they're suspicious. Let me see, where are we? So here we are. We go on that this happened Friday over the weekend, right? Monday, they go and have their meeting. Now they've talked about this case. Now here's the thing that's weird, because Jax explained that, like, if she's working on a case, she doesn't have to give them updates like they're giving. They're asking for an update. They had one Friday and they're asking for an update that Monday. And she was like, well, there's something that happened to him as personal and she doesn't want to get into it. And one of the partners is like, and she's like, why are y'all asking me? It's only been like a couple of days. She says, but there is an incident. It's a personal issue with his family. She doesn't want to get into it. And they're like, oh, well, we want to know, we're going to talk. She says no. She says this is not a place where, you all to get your kicks and things like that off a case. She says I'm their attorney, and some things that they want me to keep private. And they're like, well, this meeting is private and everything like that. Baby, next thing you know, and Jax is just basically telling him. And then Kathy, you remember the lady? She was on Jax's left side when we first saw her. Now she's over there, coupled up over there with the partners. That woman says, I just don't understand why you're acting like an ass about it. Baby, baby. The way Jax read her, like, who you think you talking to? And then the partner was like, his eyes got big, and he was like, okay, Kathy, you're gonna have to go to HR. And she was like, fine. I just don't understand why she's acting like that. And so Jax went off on the partner. She's like, my name is on the letterhead. And I don't know why you're questioning me like I'm a subordinate when I'm not. I'm a partner. I am a partner. And she had no business talking to me like that. Kathy inevitably apologized, but she went. But here's my question. Again, why are the partners so keened in on Jax? That's number one. And number two, what other meetings are they having that they're talking to other people in the firm, but they're not talking to Jax about it? And everybody seems to know that they're not talking to Jax about it. And so they feel real comfortable talking to Jax the way she is, even though her name is on the letter. She is an actual partner in the firm. Suspicious, 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 suspicious. You remember I told you Jax kind of clocked it when You remember it was about the air tags and things like that, and they didn't tell her about all this information. They didn't tell her about the drug use and the drug problems and everything like that, and how despondent that Ozzy was. Well, Jax has her friend. Here she is. She has Autumn Owens. Now, Autumn Owens has a doctorate in, I think she has a doctorate of psychology, or she is a doctor. She is a psychiatrist. Not really sure, but she has Ozzy to meet with Dr. Owens, her friend. Uh, they go back and forth, and she lets him know quickly, I know your little games. I know you're trying to charm me to deflect from the questions that I'm asking, but I'm going to ask you these straight up questions and things like that. She's very honest and forthright with him, and because she's able to get out from him that he revealed that he had been sexually abused starting at the age of 13, and it's a woman. He also revealed that he had to get some studio mandated therapy after an incident on set. What was that incident on set, y'all? What was that incident on set? So he's got some issues going into this new season. Let me write that down on here because I sure forgot that. All right. I just had to add that about the SA and the onset incident. Now, the partners, after this meeting, they come back to Bill about Jax. They say that they want to know what Jax is doing before she does it. And they want Bill to let him know. And that they know that there's going to be some things where he's going to be the only person that has the information, but they will work a way to be able to ask those questions without Jax figuring out that it was him to do that. Good luck. But he agrees because he really wants to make partner. And like I said, I believe it's about his estranged wife. He wants to get his wife back. He thinks that if he makes partner, his wife will come back. So let me see. Oh, Ozzy agreed, signed a release of information form so that Dr. Owens, her friend, can talk to Jax about what they talk about. So now Jax wants to know who was this woman that SA'd him when he was 13. And Dr. Owen seems to think that it's still continuing to go on, which could explain his behaviors. So, baby, let me tell you something. So, at towards the end, Ozzy was able to call Alex, and he tells Alex, "Hey, I need you. I need for you to come forward and let them know that I was with you that night, and to be my alibi." And baby, Alex was like, basically, hell no. I'm not coming forward to do nothing. You on your own. You were on your own, and that's when the episode ended. Child, a mess, a mess, a mess. And as we've done before, let me go ahead and get all of this together real quick. All right. Ozzy, what you hiding? This is for episode 3. Run this town. We've got questions. We've got questions. Now, we've got questions from episode 2. I will go back, and if there's any question that has been answered, we'll go back and answer them. But all of these questions are continuous. Once we get to like the end of episode 4, I'm going to consolidate all of them. Okay. So that would be episode 1, 2, 3, and 4 questions. They'll all be consolidated. If they've been answered, uh it'll be on a separate page. We would have answered those questions. All right, here we go. How are Jackson Lewis going to tell their children about Jaden? That is a good question. And why is Mama Lou trying so hard to get Jax to connect with her father? What is going on there? Particularly knowing that I don't understand it. Is she trying to make Eddie her man again? And so therefore she wants to be able to have her daughter to be okay with Eddie being back in her life, even though she didn't want Eddie back in her life. But of course, she had other men at that time. Why are the Edwards keeping so many secrets? Things that they need to tell Jax, but they keep everything secret like it's not going to come out. Why does Dr. Gardner seem so suspicious? Is Kristen a drug mule for Ozzy? Where did she get the Narcan? Did she get it from Dr. Gardner? Suspicious, suspicious, suspicious. And why do the partners now want to know Jax's move before she makes them? And why does Bill want to make partner so badly? And I think I've answered my own question. I think it's because he thinks that if he makes partner, his wife will come back to him. But I'm gonna let that question. I'm gonna see if they answer that in episode 4 or 5. I'm gonna see when they answer that. Why is Alex refusing to be Ozzy's alibi? And the biggest question is who essayed Ozzy at 13? And what was this onset incident that he had to get the initial counseling? Y'all let me know down in the comments. Child. Let's go back to see if there's any questions from yes, who is Alex? Alex is Ozzy's alibi. And that looks like the only question that was answered. And it says, why is Alex so despondent and uninterested regarding Weir's disappearance? Is because he had an alibi. He firmly believed. You remember that you remember in the second episode when he was first episode when he was like, she always does this. She gets upset, she gets mad, she goes away, and then she comes back. So he knew he didn't do anything to her, but he felt like she was just playing. She was doing what she usually does. She leaves and she doesn't talk to him for 2 or 3 days, and then she comes back. Child, a mess, y'all. It's not as it's not as fast paced as the first season and the second season. There's always stakes for Jax. Whether in the first season that she was trying to make good for her losing the case with the convict, and then her having problems with Lewis and all of that coming up. And then, she had this stake with her family, falling apart and trying to get her family back together, and then trying to get her friend out of prison. But this episode, like I said, it's good, but it's just like the stakes are not high enough. We hadn't gotten to the point where the stakes are really, really high. Ozzy is acting pretty much an ass, but the stakes are not as high. But we need them stakes to get high, and we need this case to move forward. I think I'm having too many questions that should have been answered or rounded up. So maybe episode 4 will give us the answers that we need. I hope so, child. Y'all, please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people, bye bye.